Ladies and gentlemen, I want to speak to you about something that may be hard to hear. Some of you may walk away offended. Some of you may feel convicted. But I believe this message is one that must be spoken. There are times in life when you feel isolated, like no one understands you, no one supports you, no one even likes you. You wonder, why do people treat me this way? Why am I rejected? The answer is not always because of them. Sometimes it is because of you. The world doesn't turn its back on you for no reason. People don't hate you because they are evil. No, sometimes it's because of what you carry in your heart. A selfish heart, a bitter spirit, a prideful attitude. You see, people don't run from kindness. They don't reject humility. They don't despise honesty. But they do turn away from arrogance. They do resent deception. They do flee from selfishness. My friends, if you live only for yourself, you will find yourself alone. If your words are always filled with criticism, do not be surprised when people no longer listen to you. If you are quick to anger and slow to forgive, do not wonder why people walk away. But I have good news for you today. You can change. You don't have to stay this way. You don't have to let your past define you, because there is a greater love waiting for you, a love that teaches patience, a love that shows grace, a love that transforms hearts. And when you receive this love, when you begin to live it, walk in it, and share it, you will find that people don't avoid you anymore. They will be drawn to you, because love overcomes hate. And when you love, truly love, the world around you begins to change. So I ask you today, what kind of person do you want to be? One that people run from, or one that people run to? The choice is yours. When a person is consumed with themselves, what they want, what they need, how they feel, others begin to notice. At first, people may be patient. They may try to understand, to give grace, to overlook. But over time, selfishness wears on relationships like a stone grinding against metal. It dulls the connection, making every interaction feel like a transaction. No one wants to feel used. No one wants to be around someone who only reaches out when they need something. The human heart longs for reciprocity, for a balance of giving and receiving. But when one person is always taking, always putting themselves first, eventually people withdraw. They begin to feel unseen, unappreciated, and even resentful. Selfishness doesn't just show up in big ways. It's the little things too. It's the person who never asks how you're doing, but always expects you to listen to their struggles. It's the one who interrupts, dismisses, and disregards the needs of others because their own desires seem more important. Over time, people learn. They learn that no matter how much they give, it will never be enough for someone who only thinks of themselves. And so they stop trying. They distance themselves, not because they are unkind, but because they have realized that a relationship built on one-sided effort is no relationship at all. There are few things more exhausting than being around someone who constantly finds fault in everything and everyone. A critical spirit is like a cold wind that chills the warmth out of relationships. It takes the joy out of conversation, the excitement out of dreams, and the encouragement out of effort. No matter how much someone tries, it is never good enough for a person who only sees what's wrong. People don't mind correction when it comes from a place of love. They don't reject guidance when it's given with a desire to help. But when criticism is constant, when every action is met with disapproval, every decision with a negative remark, it begins to wear a person down. They stop feeling valued, stop feeling capable, stop feeling safe. Over time, resentment builds. No one likes to feel judged all the time. No one enjoys being around someone who can never acknowledge the good, who is always quick to point out flaws but slow to offer grace. A critical spirit creates distance, not because they are weak, but because they are tired of never being enough. Pride creates walls between people. It stands tall, demanding attention, demanding recognition, demanding to be right. But while pride seeks to elevate itself, it unknowingly pushes others away. No one enjoys being around someone who always has to be the smartest in the room, the most important, the most accomplished. A prideful person rarely listens, rarely admits when they are wrong, and rarely values the input of others. Over time, this attitude becomes exhausting. People long for connection, not competition. They are drawn to those who make them feel seen and heard, not dismissed and diminished. Pride, however, does the opposite. It creates a barrier where there should be a bridge. Instead of fostering closeness, it breeds resentment. Instead of drawing others in, it pushes them out. On the other hand, humility is magnetic. There is something undeniably attractive about a person who doesn't need to boast, doesn't need to prove themselves, doesn't need to make others feel small to feel significant. A humble person listens. They acknowledge their faults. They celebrate others without feeling threatened. And because of that, people naturally want to be around them. Pride repels because it isolates. Humility attracts because it welcomes. The more a person insists on their own greatness, the more others begin to pull away. But the one who walks in humility finds themselves surrounded by people who genuinely care, not because they demand it, but because they inspire it. Trust is the foundation of every relationship. It is built over time through honesty, consistency, and integrity. But deception, even in its smallest forms, is like a crack in that foundation. At first, it may seem insignificant, a little exaggeration, a half-truth, a promise left unfulfilled, but over time, those cracks grow, and the once solid ground begins to crumble. People want to believe in the words of those they care about. They want to feel secure in knowing that what is said is true, that what is promised will be done, that the person they trust is exactly who they claim to be. But when deception enters, it creates doubt. It forces people to question, was that true? Can I rely on them? Do they really mean what they say? The more deception takes root, the harder it becomes to believe anything at all. The damage caused by dishonesty is often far greater than the lie itself. It's not just about the words spoken, but about the betrayal felt. When someone realizes they have been deceived, it is not just disappointment they feel. It is a deep sense of betrayal, a loss of security, a wound that is not easily healed. And even if forgiveness comes, trust is not so easily restored. Once people begin to doubt someone's honesty, they hesitate to rely on them. They become cautious with their words, guarded with their emotions, distant with their hearts. Deception does more than break a moment of trust. It creates a lasting barrier that can take years to rebuild, if it can be rebuilt at all. Bitterness is like a slow-acting poison in relationships. It starts with a single wound, a moment of hurt, a word spoken in anger, an action that felt unfair. Instead of addressing it, instead of healing, the wound is held on to. It is replayed, rehearsed, and nurtured until it grows into something deeper. What was once a moment of pain becomes a constant lens through which everything is seen. People who carry bitterness often don't realize how much it changes them. It hardens the heart. It makes them quick to assume the worst, slow to forgive, and resistant to love. Conversations become laced with resentment, even when the past is not being spoken about directly. Joy feels distant, laughter forced, and interaction strained. The people around them start to feel the weight of it, even if they are not the ones who caused it. Over time, bitterness isolates. It creates tension where there should be peace. It turns friends into enemies, love into obligation, and connection into avoidance. Others begin to tread carefully, afraid of saying the wrong thing, afraid of stirring up old wounds that never seem to close. And when people feel they have to walk on eggshells around someone, they eventually choose to walk away altogether. Healing cannot come while holding on to bitterness. It does not punish the person who caused the pain. It only punishes the one carrying it. And the longer it is held, the more damage it does, not just to relationships, but to the heart itself. Greed is a silent destroyer of relationships. It begins with an unquenchable desire for more wealth, more power, more recognition. At first, it may seem harmless, even justifiable. But over time, it changes a person. When the pursuit of more becomes the priority, people become secondary. Relationships are no longer about love, friendship, or mutual respect. They become about what can be gained. People begin to notice when someone values possessions over people. They see when generosity is absent, when giving is always reluctant, when every interaction feels transactional. Greed makes a person see others not as friends or family, but as resources, tools, or obstacles. It turns genuine relationships into self-serving arrangements, where kindness is given only if something can be gained in return. Over time, greed creates distance. Those who once felt valued begin to feel used. Those who once trusted begin to question motives. Greed blinds a person to the needs of others, making them indifferent to the struggles and suffering around them. And when people feel unseen, unheard, or taken advantage of, they eventually walk away. Wealth, success, and achievements may grow, but they come at a cost. Greed isolates. It builds walls instead of bridges. It leaves a person surrounded by possessions, but alone in spirit. True connection requires selflessness, but greed demands everything for itself. And in the end, a life consumed by greed is a life filled with things, but empty of love. When compassion is absent, the heart slowly turns to stone. At first, it may not be obvious. A person might think they are simply being realistic, practical, or strong. They may see vulnerability as weakness and distance themselves from the struggles of others. But over time, this lack of compassion begins to shape their character. Without kindness, interactions become cold. Without empathy, relationships become shallow. People instinctively seek comfort in those who care. They are drawn to those who listen, who acknowledge their pain, who extend a helping hand without judgment. But when they encounter someone who is indifferent, who shrugs off suffering, who refuses to see beyond their own world, they begin to withdraw. They stop opening up. They stop trusting. They stop seeking connection because they know they will find none. A hardened heart does not just push others away, it isolates itself. Without compassion, relationships become transactional. Conversations lose depth, and love feels distant. Even those who once tried to stay close eventually grow weary. They realize that no matter what they say, no matter what they feel, they will always be met with indifference, and so they let go, not out of anger, but out of exhaustion. Compassion is not just about helping others, it is about keeping one's own heart alive. A life without it may seem strong on the surface, but it is empty underneath. In the end, it is not suffering that hardens hearts, it is the refusal to care. Envy is a silent thief. It steals joy, it distorts perspective, and it turns blessings into burdens. It starts as a small thought, a comparison, a lingering glance at what someone else has, but if left unchecked, it grows. It seeps into the heart, making gratitude impossible and contentment unreachable. Instead of celebrating others, envy resents them. Instead of finding joy in personal progress, it fixates on what is missing. A person consumed by envy struggles to build real connections. They cannot truly support their friends because deep down, another's success feels like a personal failure. Compliments become forced, and happiness for others turns into bitterness. The more they compare, the more they feel like they are losing. And the more they feel like they are losing, the harder it becomes to find peace. Over time, envy changes how a person sees the world. Achievements are no longer inspiring but irritating. Kindness from others feels undeserved. Even the simplest joys lose their meaning because they are constantly measured against something greater. It creates distance, not just from people, but from fulfillment itself. A soul ruled by envy is never satisfied. No matter how much is gained, it will never be enough, as long as someone else has more. But the truth is, envy does not take away from others. It only takes from the one who carries it. It robs them of contentment, of joy, of the ability to appreciate the good in their own life. And in the end, it leaves them empty, always reaching, never arriving. Anger is a natural emotion, but when it has no cause or control, it becomes destructive. It turns small disagreements into major conflicts and minor inconveniences into personal attack. When a person carries anger without reason, it spills into every interaction, making them quick to snap, quick to blame and slow to listen. Those around them begin to feel like they are walking through a storm that could strike at any moment. People can forgive a moment of frustration, but when anger becomes a pattern, it wears them down. No one enjoys being around someone who is always on edge, always looking for a fight, always ready to take offense. It creates tension where there should be peace, fear where there should be trust. Even those who care deeply will eventually grow tired of the constant volatility. Uncontrolled anger doesn't just damage relationships, it isolates. It makes people hesitant to speak, hesitant to share, hesitant to stay close. Over time, bridges that once connected hearts are burned, leaving behind only regret and loneliness. By the time the damage is realized, some relationships may be too far gone to repair. Anger without cause is not strength, it is weakness in disguise. It pushes away the very people who might have been willing to stand by, to support, to understand, and in the end, the one who holds on to it the longest is the one who suffers the most. When a person chooses to ignore God's love, they are in essence turning away from the very thing that can fill their deepest needs. There is a void in every human heart, a longing for connection, for meaning, for purpose. But without God's love, that void can never truly be satisfied. The world offers many distractions, many temporary pleasures, and many fleeting comforts, but none of them can offer the lasting fulfillment that comes from knowing you are loved unconditionally. People may fill their lives with success, with material possessions, with relationships, but without God's love, there is always something missing. Success becomes hollow, relationships feel incomplete, and achievements lose their satisfaction because they were never meant to be the ultimate source of happiness. They were always meant to point toward something greater, someone greater. Ignoring God's love doesn't just leave a person feeling empty, it also leaves them vulnerable. Without this love as the foundation, life's challenges become overwhelming. The weight of fear, doubt, and pain becomes unbearable. When the storms of life hit, there is no anchor, no reassurance, no steady hand to hold. People begin to rely on their own strength, which will always fall short. Over time, the absence of God's love leads to a spiritual emptiness that no amount of worldly success can fill. It is like trying to quench a thirst with salt water. No matter how much you drink, you only become thirstier. True peace and fulfillment can only be found when a person embraces the love that has always been there, patiently waiting for them to accept it. And when that love is embraced, everything changes. The emptiness begins to fade, and a deeper sense of purpose, connection, and joy begins to fill the soul. The truth is clear. Our hearts can only be filled with love, humility, and grace. When we allow selfishness, bitterness, pride, and envy to rule our lives, we push away the very people who could bring us peace. When we refuse to see beyond ourselves, we build walls instead of bridges. And when we ignore the love that was given freely to us, we end up empty, longing for something we cannot find in the world. But there is hope. There is a love that transcends all bitterness, a humility that can heal the deepest wounds, a grace that can restore the broken. When we turn to the love of God, when we allow His forgiveness and compassion to shape us, we are not only changed, we are made whole. I ask you today, what kind of life do you want to lead? One marked by selfishness and bitterness, or one filled with the transformative power of love, humility, and compassion? The choice is yours. But know this, only when you embrace God's love, only when you let go of the things that poison your soul, will you find the peace, joy, and fulfillment that your heart longs for. This is not just a decision for today. It is a call to transform your life and the lives of those around you. Choose love, choose grace, choose to live fully with an open heart and a clear mind, because the greatest power in this world is not wealth, success, or even influence. It is love. And love, when shared and received, can change everything.